Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. Part 2 of the Wielder of Magic beatdown battle rerun for EX3 difficulty, the last stage you need to get the dupe of Ranga. So, yesterday, I released part 1 of the video, and also, because this is an old event, I have 3 other videos from last year also beating these stages with other teams. So today is a continuation of only using teams that came out after, early October of 2023, and not teams that existed before then, because I probably already covered that in the 3 other videos that I did last year in October of 2023. So if you can't use the teams shown here or the teams shown yesterday, please refer back to the old videos and find a team that may work for you from there instead. But nothing really else to go over it. We kind of already know what it does. It's built for an orange magic team. The starting hand is 1 green, 1 blue, 4 oranges. He does do a quite powerful ult and a single target follow-up attack on turn 6. So you do need to get around that or just beat him before turn 6. And he's got not a lot of HP, though. 322k. We can clear that with a lot of teams nowadays. But let's jump into the next couple phases. Alright, so the first team we're going to use is the Overlord team. Not everyone has access to this, but it did come out after Wielder of Magic, so maybe you were playing then. We've got Rimuru, Nabe, we've got Shizu, and Ainz, but we're going to swap out Albedo and Shoutir, because they're less than useful. For first anniversary, Dark Milim, who is skill fused, so she's giving 70% ult damage for everybody, and then a 25% attack buff for dark allies, which Ainz is dark. If she's not skill fused, you're still fine. It's just that only Milim gets the attack buff, but you still want to give Ainz that extra ult damage. And then Veldora, because greens are nerfed in this stage, we need to be able to overcome that a bit. So we're going to bring Veldora, and Rimuru will skill reset, and everything will be hunky-dory. So turn 1, we're just going to bring Ainz and Shizu in. They both have turn 2 protection traits on their support characters underneath them. So we'll leave Milim, we'll take Veldora out, because he's best used in the back, because he's not changing... And, well, he's changing his orbs and Milim's orbs, but no one else. So here, I mean, we could use him to our advantage if we really wanted to, but we can also just use Nabe. So we only have 54 points. It's not enough to use 3 skills, but it is enough to get us, an okay amount of points. And more importantly, because of those protection traits, we have a use of Overlord Rimuru, which means that our greens are now going to get 100% extra skill points, which is really going to help out this turn, because we need to be able to use the orb changes and the green buff from Veldora. The Ainz Despair skill, which has the protection gauge 50% for greens, is sealed in this stage, so we can't rely on that. Unfortunate. We are running the protection gauge on green Charm, though, so we're getting a little bit more protection gauge because of the nerf, and we're countering against it. But turn 3, we get a good hand. Everyone here is Stern Spirit, so we could change the blues and then the 1 blue and 1 orange with Nabe. Veldora can come in. We can use his green buff now. And at this point, it's just stacking, because now we've got enough points. Now we've got the gauge increase. We're looking good. So we're gonna go until turn 6 to make sure that we can get the ults for Ainz and Shizu. We don't need both ults, but I just wanted it as insurance. Remember, this golem only has like 330-something thousand HP, and we are rocking EX stacking characters, so we're going to be able to get around that. Here, we can use Milim's Orb Change, and then the ult swap from Shizu, and that leaves just 2 orange Ainz orbs, which means that Nabe can come in once again and change those. And now we're getting, 300% skill points on greens plus the green buff? So we're no longer hurting on points. We just want extra ult gauge, really. We could really not get any stacks of Rimuru at this point and still be okay. But turn 4, again, turn 6 is where he gets scary. And now we have ults for both Shizu and Ainz. If you wanted to nuke here, you totally could. We have more than enough points to do it. But I just wanted to go an extra turn and get the EX ult for, I think, both of them. Right? Yeah, for both of them. At least Ainz. 250 points. We only need, what, 816, and then 215? 225? Math is hard. 160 plus 55. 115 points? I'm an idiot. Don't worry about it. I can't do math. I'm an Asian that can't do math. I'm sorry. I was raised by white people, okay? I didn't get the super cool genius Asian genes when I got adopted. Oh, the cope. It's real. I've been coping my entire life, though, for math. Alright, so now we have 2 EX alts. We have now plenty of points. And we have one more use of Rimuru, which I guess is cool. Or 2, because of the protection traits, because we're on turn 6. Not that we really needed them, but we got them anyways. So, we don't need to do anything except buff, buff, and buff. And then we actually got a natural 6-hand, surprisingly, with another Shizu orb coming as well. So, Ainz is giving guaranteed crits to him and Shizu, giving himself a magic buff. Milim is giving ult damage to everybody, 25% attack to Ainz. And then Shizu, her ult resistance down is what counts here. The weakness strike doesn't matter because we're not type advantage. But there's the Overlord team clearing EX3 fairly painlessly. Let's move on. Alright, another stacking team, this time blues, and we're going to attempt to not use rainbow orbs for the Primal Demon team. We're going to be nuking with Blanc. Her and Violet together is what they were meant to do. She's meant to be a single target nuker. We're going to run a lot, and I mean a lot, of protection gauge characters. Both Lumi and Trainee give us extra ult gauge for turns 1, 2, and 3. We've got Overlord Shizu down here underneath Misery for turn 2 and turn 4 and turn 6. And then we've got Violet, who's giving protection gauge. Well, actually, both of them, both Violet and Blanc, are giving protection gauge turn 3 and turn 6. So literally everyone is doing protection gauge here except for Diablo. Good job. But he's doing a lot of orb changing alongside Misery, alongside Trainee. So we're really going to try and make this work as best as possible. Okay, so again, turn 1, not really built for what we need to do here. We're just going to bring all of our protection gauge characters in and just get a lot of Violet turn 2. And then we actually get pretty lucky here. RNG'd ourselves into 5 Misery orbs, which means it's actually 5 Blanc orbs. And now Blanc can start using her 0-point buffs, which does help us get a little bit extra ult gauge on orbs, which is cool. We could also supercharge that with Octagram Lumi, because she's double skill fused. And her AoE buff skill also gives 50% extra ult gauge for every orb. The AoE buff doesn't help us, because Blanc is single target, but you could, in theory, use that skill as well. But here we're looking pretty good, because now we have 2 orange orbs and 4 blues. We have 1 stack of Violet, which means we're going to get 100% extra skill points, which in reality is only 20% because they're nerfed. But we'll bring Misery in for Lumi, and then we'll convert them, because she only converts Primal Demon oranges, so we had to take Lumi out. And now we'll keep using buffs, and we'll send 6 blues, and that gets us an okay amount of points. It might not actually be an 80-point debuff. It might be like a 50 or something. It might be 80 in like Inferno, though. But here, alright, that's fine. We can make this work. The Misery Orb change starts out for free, so we could use that without costing anything. And then we can use Trainee to get rid of that 1 orange, and then we'll bring Diablo in to change the rest of them, all those green orbs. So, let's let's not swap out yet. Let's use the free alt swap here. There we go. And then use Trainee's skill. Boom. I don't want to use Misery's because it's only changing 1 orange orb, so it's like, why would you do that? It's such a waste. And then Diablo, we haven't used him yet, so... Here, I mean, we could have used both of Octagram Lumi's skills and gotten away with it, but I didn't want to. And don't ask me why I didn't. I just didn't. I kind of forgot at the time. But we're not doing a lot of damage, and now we're on turn 5, which means we need a bit more stacks to use the points that I want to here. So, alt swap again, convert, and then another use of both of Blanc's skills, which is giving us attack, pierce power, and ult damage. So it's doing a lot. It's just doing it very in small doses. But as you can see, we almost had an EX ult there, and if we had actually used the AoE buff from Lumi even once, we would have gotten the EX ult for Blanc. But what I'm about to show you, it doesn't really fucking matter. So, I know my Blanc is 120, so if your Blanc is not 120, and you do need the EX ult to kill, then just know that you could just use the Lumi buff. And we also haven't used any of Lumi's extra ult damage. So we're really missing out on quite a few things here, but Blanc by herself is still able to wipe this golem. So she does 315, and we've lowered him enough to where that is actually enough to kill. So Primal Demons with no rainbow orbs can get the job done, just by ult rushing and lots of protection gauge. Alright, another stacking blue team, because that's pretty much all we've gotten this entire fucking year, is blue teams. So, Commander meta, Renard, Diablo, free-to-play Glenda, Shizu, Hinata, and free-to-play Water Rimuru. Again, not really banking on a lot of rainbow orbs at all, but we are going to use a number of characters with protection gauge, Hinata, Blanc, and Octagram Lumi in the support slot. And we're going to be nuking with Primal Demon Violet. Or not Violet, but Diablo. Diablo is our nuker today. Okay, so just like the Primal Demon team, not much we can do about turn 1, except bring in all of our protection gauge characters and send the oranges. Except this time, I don't believe we actually get a stack of Renard here. What we do get is a lot of oranges again, but this time specifically for mostly Shizu. So, we'll just give Diablo that and kind of jumpstart his ult. We'll send the oranges again, and hopefully now we have enough points to convert next turn, which technically, thankfully, we do. So, the Renard stacks aren't helping that much. We don't care about weakness strike on this team. None of us are type advantage. We do care about the ult resistance down, though, so that's nice. Another sad part is that we can't use Diablo's Lord's Ambition skill to try and ult rush him, because it gets sealed, just like the Vengeance skills, which is why I didn't show Vengeance in this stage. But here, we got a few points back, 116, which is enough to convert here, and now we've got a stack of Renard as well. So now we can use the Hinata and the Shizu orb changes, give us a full hand of blues. And now we've got the multi-hit, which I guess is cool, but he's guarding, so it's not like we're doing a lot of damage to begin with. And now we just need to get enough points to use a number of buffs. Diablo gets attack and synergy power, which means that we want to use his buff, and Glenda's 55-point skill. But now we're up to 200 points, and so we could very easily just swap this out for a nice full hand of blues, and now we're going to have 300 points, which means that we can use the Glenda buff, the Hinata buff, and the Diablo buff. If you don't want to use the Hinata buff because it's 90 points and you're short, you can use the Shizu buff instead. It's just that we wouldn't get anything for the EX ult part of it because Diablo doesn't have an EX ult. We'd still get the physical buff, though, which is good, but we'd be missing a lot of it. At least Hinata, where both buffs are helping. 120% ult, and then the 40% synergy resistance down. Glenda gave us synergy, so 292k is not a lot, but we also had a Hinata ult to follow up just in case he survived, which actually Diablo didn't do as much damage as I thought he would. But there we go. That's another blue team that can run it. Now let's do the final team, which, shock surprise, is another blue stacking team. Alright, stacking blue team. The final one, Ogre's Pride. This time we are going to cheat and use Coleus Rimuru for the rainbow orbs. You could also use New Year's Blessing Rimuru instead if you wanted to do that and just bring like a triple orb stealer. We don't really need Violet here except for the orb change, so I mean, I think the least useful character on this team is actually fucking Shuna, but you know, we knew that when Ogre's Pride was finished. So, Momiji, giving the two big-time buffs, Violet orb change and the magic buff, which technically Shuna has a magic buff as well, but Violet has the orb change, Shuna has the triple ult swap, so it's kind of a give and take. Rimuru's here for the self-converts and the rainbows, and then Soe with his own orb convert is good. His buff, though, is going to be a bit underpowered, because we are not going to go to turn 8, so we don't really have the ability to use 300 skill points to max him out. And specifically Benimaru, without going to turn 8 is really not a great protector right now, because he only gets his Pierce power on turn 8. Otherwise, he's just stacking alt damage, which, I mean, is cool, I guess, but it's definitely not super duper extra impactful after 6 turns, and especially 6 turns of nerfed blues means you're going to get like 3 stacks out of him, maybe 4. And as is the rest of the blue stacking teams, we're not going to do anything except bring our units in for turn 1 because we can't get out of a orange convert. If you wanted to, you could bring Hinata, a light Hinata, and then use her convert, and probably bring her instead of Coleus Rimuru or something, and just really supercharge some alt gauge for all the units. That's definitely a viability. But we don't really get a good turn 2 either, so we're going to take Shuna out and leave her in the back so we can bring her in for whoever's going to have the most rainbow orbs when we get to that point. And turn 3, we do have enough, so we'll use Soe to change a lot of those orbs, and now we'll bring Coleus Rimuru in for anybody, really. We only have enough points to use as rainbows. And then, because Coleus Rimuru has 2 rainbow orbs, that's more than everybody else, we're going to be able to send this full 6 hand, but only Shuna has the 2 guaranteed rainbow orbs. It's still enough to give everybody their alt, which is cool and everything, but we do need a few more points before we're ready to really nuke this thing down. But now that we have 3 alts, it makes it very easy, because now we can just triple alt swap and then use someone's orb change. It doesn't have to be Soe, it doesn't have to be Violet. We could bring Rimuru in for all I care. Whatever really works. So, convert. I do decide to bring Rimuru in because he's cheaper right now than Violet, and I want to make sure we have points for our nuke, considering we only have, what, like 2 stacks of Benimaru? But 210 points, alright. Cheeky counter, thank you very much. And now we'll just burn off another turn and get to a point where we can use a number of different buffs. And thankfully, we get fairly lucky here. So we can take Momiji out for Soe again, use the alt swap, and then we just have 1 green orb to deal with, which we could use Violet's orb change as well. It's just cheaper. And then we get another stack of Benimaru, and that'll be the final stack that we get out of him. So now we have the EX alt for Shuna, which is very cool. It means that we will definitely have enough power. We also have 2 other alts, you know, just in case she doesn't kill. But here, do we use the magic buff from Shuna, because we're going to pretty much guarantee that she's going to kill? Do we use Violet's magic buff, because it hits everybody? And it's really up to you. The weakness strike doesn't matter, again, because we're not type advantage at all. So we'll use the Shuna buff, and then we'll use both of Momiji's skills, and that gives us enough points to use that, and for funsies, a Soe convert, just because we have the points for it. But Shuna is able to kill by herself, so not a really big deal. But there we go, another 4 teams to clear the EX3 stage of the Wielder of Magic Beatdown Battle rerun. If there are any other teams you use that are not in this video, yesterday's video, or the 3 videos I posted last year that are in the video description, please let me know in the comments. But that's it for me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.